And we continue with The Wonderful O by James Thurber. All of a sudden the way grew clearer for Black in his dark part of the forest, and the sun shone bright. The earth beneath his feet seemed firmer. The threatening trees had disappeared except for one, all that was left of a stricken oak standing in a clearing. And then he saw the long gaunt form of Little Jack, and Strag and Strug, and all their men gathered about a certain spot and pointing with their spades, bitten and stung, and ruffled and rumpled, but screaming in glee and delight. "This is the place," cried Little Jack. "Dig," croaked Black, and the men were about to dig with their spades, but their hands were stayed as they raised them by an ominous clatter and clangor, a snow of arrows and a sound of armor. Many figures of men loomed up afoot or on horses, and they rode and ran among the crew, and the crew let drop their spades. "These are but figures of fantasy," cried Black. "These men have no blood in their veins." "Dig," bawled Little Jack, but no man dug. They stood as if rooted to the ground and gazed at the apparitions. "Ink runs in their veins, immortal ink, the ink of song and story," was the voice of Andreas. "Ink can be destroyed," cried Black, "and men who are made of ink. Name me their names." They came so swiftly from the sky as Andreas couldn't name them all, streaming out of lore and legend, streaming out of song and story, each phantom flaunting like a flag his own especial glory. Lancelot and Ivanhoe, Athos and Porthos, Cyrano, Roland, Rob Roy, Romeo, Donalbain of Burnham Wood, Robinson Crusoe and Robin Hood, the moody dunes of Lorna Doone, Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone, out of near and ancient times, Banquo's ghost and Sherlock Holmes, Losifnar, Lothario, Horatius, and Horatio. And there were other figures too, darker, coming from the blue, Shakespeare's Shylock, Billy Bones, Quasimodo, Conrad's Jones, Ichabod, and Captain Hook, names enough to fill a book. "These wares of the O, methink, are indestructible," wailed Little Jack. "Books can be burned," croaked Black. "They have a way of rising out of ashes," said Andreas. I have a wonderful feeling as if the double O's of doom were sticking. I have a woeful feeling as if the double O of doom were sticking in my throat." Black's voice, though choked, grew brighter. "The phantom pass," he cried. "Take up your spades." But as if this were a signal or a sign, the air was filled with sudden laughter, and other figures began circling above and about the vandals, like laughing Indians riding ponies, led by Mother Goose astride a broom. Who are these spawns of nightmare or of fever?" demanded Black. This time it was Andrea's voice that answered him. Little Jack Horner came out of his corner, Tommy Trout, and the cat he pulled out, Poor Cock Robin, and Bessie Brooks, Simple Simon, and Tommy Snooks. Dr. Foster came home from Gloucester, Little Boy Blue, and King Cole too, and a certain old woman who lived in a shoe. "These are but shadows," quivered Black. I ripped the O from heroes and from fools, but not from love," said Andrea, "or from affection, and not from memory or recollection." "Pick up your spades," ordered Black, laughing so his men would laugh, but no one laughed. Then other shadows rode like thunder from the skies, the Argonauts and the Myrmidons, the Amazons, Adonis and Endymion, Apollo and Hyperion, and high above them, flying faster, Pollux and his brother Castor, burning like a flame in spars, lighting up the sky like stars. Then came great O-giants, Coraman and Blunderbore, Goliath, and 100 more. The Cyclops hurtling peaks at no man, and even the abominable Himalayan snowman. The men were prostrate now upon the ground, and all their eyes were closed against the visions from the sky. "Dig," croaked Black, "or I shall slay you." He drew his pistol from his belt, and Little Jack, his cutlass, fearing death far more than apparition. The men began to dig, and as they dug, a clock began to strike, an unseen clock. The earth was suddenly hard and cold, and the blades of spades were bent and broken. "You've struck a chest," cried Black, "an iron-bound chest, an oaken. But what the men had struck was carbonate and carborundum, conglomerate, or pudding stone, and something known as oolite, or dogger. The clock continued striking. "I destroyed all clocks," cried Black. "All clocks save one," said Andreas. "The clock that strikes in conscience." The deep tones of the clock went on until the clock had struck 11, and on this strike a curious phenomenon occurred. Upon the ground and all around appeared a score of objects, each one different from the others. "Containers!" Black's voice was hollow. "I should have destroyed containers, and the things contained therein. A curse on Hyde and his collective nouns." "What is in these things I do not know, but not a single one of them contains an O." Little Jack's voice was bleak as he gazed at the odd collection, a chest, a trunk, a valise, and all sorts of cases, a barrel, a bag, and a bin, and all sorts of vases. "A sack, a bucket, and a basket," cried Black. "A crate, an urn, and even a casket." His eyes grew dark, and then they lit with fiendish lightning. "The jewels!" he cried. "The precious stones!" And Black and Little Jack and Strag and Strug and all their men began opening the odorless containers, and in each one they found a single sheet of paper, and on each sheet a single word appeared that gleamed and glowed and glittered. The clock struck 12. "It's noon!" cried Black, and all the people echoed, "Noon!" Then they heard the ringing of a distant bell, sounding near and sounding nearer, ringing clear and ringing clearer, till all the sky was filled with music as by magic. "Freedom!" Andreas cried, naming the gleaming word the men had found, the word that glowed and glittered. "Freedom!" Andrea echoed after him, and the sound of the greatest word turned the vandals pale and made them tremble. "I knew the word could not be doom," the old man said, "or sorrow. I was afraid that it might be tomorrow." And we will pause there.